What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're throwing it to a banger Void 3.0 Warlock here that y'all can take in and farm some of those dawning materials in the time that we are in, baking those cookies for our wonderful NPCs and beyond. This build is super good for ad management, keeping us alive with Devour, as well as some pretty gnarly DPS with Wither Horde and our Nova Bomb, so we will get right into it. So starting off right here for our Void Walker, we're going to be using our Cataclysmic Nova Bomb. So it's that slower traveling ones, but when it detonates, it shatters. So we have that little extra damage. Then we're going with our Healing Rift and Balance Glide for our abilities with our Pocket Singularity Melee. Now for grenades, I chose to go with a vortex grenade since we're using Contraverse Holds with this, and you will see with our mods and aspects why this works so well. For our two aspects, we have Chaos Accelerant, so overcharging our grenades makes it more effective, so our Vortex grenade has an increased size and it stays for a longer duration, so that is one reason why we picked Vortex grenades. Next right here we have Feed the Void, so defeating targets with those grenade or void abilities activates Devour. While we're in Devour, Final Blows restores health and extends it, so with this build we basically always have grenades up and we always have Devour proc, so it's very easy survivability for that end game content and doing some nice juicy DPS as well. Now since we only had 3 fragments, we had to pick and choose to be specific for this build. Now I went with Echo of Remnants so we can have that grenade last even longer to apply some nice buff on the enemies, where that large radius that we're getting from our aspect up here just wipes out all the ads in the business, and then when it sits on a boss with that super increased duration, you basically have your grenade back by the time it runs out, so it's a very good way to continuously have grenades up. Next off, we have Echo of Undermining, so those grenades that we have are weakening targets, allowing us to do some pretty gnarly DPS on those bosses, champions, whatever it may be, a little bit higher than just your normal rank and file enemies. Finally, for our fragments right here, we have Echo of Instability, so again, those grenades are giving our volatile rounds to our void weapons, plus we get a little strength on top of that, and like I said, you can see that with the amount that we are doing damage with the build and also our mods on our armor, we're able to get back our grenades super fast, and they are very juicy because of Chaos Accelerant and Feed the Void and our Exotic Contraverse Holds. Now, we're using these weapons to play into the realm that we are using for that weaken in the debuff, as well as what we have on here. So we're using Wither Horde for that continuous tick damage, as well as we are hitting enemies with a weakening grenade inside of this because of Breach and Clear, Weaken Clear on our class item. Now we're using Funnel Web with Subsistence and Adrenaline Junkie because Adrenaline Junkie, the weapon gains increased damage and handling from Final Blows with grenades. So when we're getting defeats with the bunch of grenades that we have, we're going to have volatile rounds for it, as well as that Adrenaline Junkie proc, so the Funnel Web is going to be absolutely just mowing through ads and enemies like no one's business. And then we're throwing Chain of Command on last season's Pinnacle weapon with Adrenaline Junkie again and Demolitionist, so on those weapon defeats, we're getting Demolitionist to proc, so we're getting our grenade back even faster, as well as Adrenaline Junkie, that nice extra juicy damage with this weapon. So it's a very good build to have and just kind of synergetically keep giving our weapons bonus damage with Adrenaline Junkie in these two, and when we get defeats with the machine gun, we're getting our grenade back. Not that we already don't get it back super fast because of the mods that we have on over here with our armor. So first off, on our helmet, we're going to go with Grenade Launcher Finder and Harmonic Siphon, so we can get Orbs of Power from those Funnel Web defeats, as well as find extra ammo for that nice grenade launcher to keep ads at bay and for that DPS. Now we're going to be using Elemental Charge on this, so we become charged charged with light, stacking up to 2 times by picking up elemental wells. If it matches our subclass, so by creating void elemental wells, which we are in a few different ways, it'll stack us up to 2 times immediately, and we're using that charge with light to get back our grenades as well. So throwing it to our Contraverse Holds right here, making our grenades extra DPS-y and have that nice juicy resistance when we're holding and charging it. And then it also gives us grenade energy back when we hit grenades with a charged version, and with our aspect and our fragments creating weakening and everything that we have going on. Like I said, you can see in the gameplay, we have grenades back almost instantly when we're hitting targets and getting those defeats. We get Devour procced, we get volatile rounds. It's just absolutely nutty. Now we're throwing firepower on, so while we're charged with light from picking up those elemental wells, when we throw our grenade and it consumes all of that energy, we're getting a decent amount, about a third, a little bit more than a third back, just by throwing our grenade, consuming 1 stack of that charged with light. And we do have stacks of this, so it's going to give us back even more. Now we're going to throw on overload rounds just for that endgame activity with our funnel leb, stunning those overload champions. So it's just a nice little aspect to this build for endgame, so we do have potential to stun champions, and if you really need it, you can take off one of these firepower and throw on unstoppable as well, just for those champions. And then fastball right here, so those grenades, just, you don't have to really arc them, you can just whip them wherever you so please. Moving on to our chest piece right here, we're going survivability with concussive dampener and sniper dampener, so we don't take that damage from those nearly as much as we do without these. And then our second, firepower, which just again helps us get our grenade back faster by consuming that charge with light when we throw our grenades, stacking them on our arms as well as on our chest piece. Now right here we have elemental ordnance, so all of those grenades that we throw are going to help us to create void elemental wells, giving us that charge with light on our helmet by picking them up. We're also going to use 2 innervations, so reduce grenade cooldown when we pick up those orbs of power, which we are creating via harmonic siphon on our helmet. So it's another synergy of getting grenade back just by picking up orbs of power, which happens a bunch with this build, and when we're playing with others, orbs of power are just popping out all over the place, so getting grenade back super fast with this build. And finally we have weaken clear, so getting hits with that grenade launcher weaken enemies, so it's just another way to do juicy DPS on those enemies and bosses with our Nova Bomb, and also even just our grenades and funnel web with that volatility. And finally elemental armaments, so we're going to create those void elemental wells on elemental defeats that match our subclass, so our funnel web with all of those volatile defeats and all of those grenade defeats you can see in the background gameplay. We're just blowing through this heist battleground as well, defeating everything without any problems because of all the weakening that we're getting. We're staying alive because of the Devour that gets procced via our melee, and the plethora of grenades that we're just whipping around because of the recharge rate from firepower on our mods, as well as how everything else works together in the exotic perk with grenade holds and having them charge up, getting that regen of energy. And all of those elemental wells also give us a little portion of ability energy back. So survivability is key, damage is key with this build. You can keep adds at bay or just absolutely go in and melt a boss. So it is a very fun build for me to be using right now, especially with some of these in the changes with weaken clear. Even though Wither Horde doesn't stay as long on the ground, it still is very massive at keeping adds at bay and that damage. So this build right here is so much fun to use, absolutely gnarly DPS on these grenades and with our Nova Bomb. So hopefully y'all can take this into your endgame activities, stuff like that, have some fun with it. Thank you guys for watching, truly appreciate it. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.